So I wanted to start with this press conference. You know, I love me a good press conference. Um, I watched the first like few minutes of it. It's real boring where they're just talking back and forth. This is, I guess somebody from Ireland. I don't know if he's like you know, the president or the king or whatever of Ireland or just some diplomatic representative. But they were just kind of going back and forth for a little bit, and that wasn't that interesting. But I wanted to get to this part, which is my favorite part of any press conference. The rabble rousers. The When all of the press yells questions at our big beautiful boy and he gets to call on them like school children and answer to the best of his ability the incredibly smart questions that they ask. Sometimes they ask good ones, sometimes they ask bad ones, but um, so I figured, let's just jump right into it. Our big beautiful boy, he's looking good. He's got the green Irish tie on. I haven't seen him with that. I think it complements him very well. The green and orange is like a classic color combination. Any artist, any palette person will tell you that, okay? And then all of it just clashes so hard with all the gold, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's go and see how our president answers some of these questions from the press while he frame-mogs this dude from Ireland.
Or of Irish descent. We have, so you have quite a few, but we have a lot.
You have a lot more than we have.
It's pretty amazing. By a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And any questions?
What is Ireland in September and you stay at Dubai?
Well, I'm having, it's a great thing, my son. And
Okay, this is not right. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I always forget to turn the speed back down. I cannot. I'm gonna just start over here because I listen to stuff on YouTube at like 1.5 times speed. I cannot. I really I need to process stuff at like a faster speed than how they usually talk. That includes even when I go back and watch my own content. I can't stand how slow I talk sometimes. But okay, let's start this again. This is Trump at this press conference with this Irish dude. We'll
have
see what he
more,
has to say.
I think people here by far than you have in Ireland that are
Absolutely.
of Irish descent. We have, so you have quite a few, but we have a lot.
You have a lot more than we have. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing by a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And
Thank you.
any questions for me?
What is Ireland in September and will you stay at Dubai?
Well, I'm having, it's a great thing, my son and my family. We have a great golf complex in Ireland, one of the best in the world, called Doonbeg. It's in Doonbeg. And it's been amazing. And
I don't care about this
McIlroy-
question. Sorry.
So very,
Mr. President,
it's a very hard course.
Mr.
What
President,
progress have you made, Mr. President, in getting America's allies to assist the U.S. in escorting those oil tankers through the Strait
Okay,
of
good
Hormuz?
question.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put
Yeah.
out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated.
I'm sure that they were. They're little sycophants to America. So anything that we do, they have to like come on board with or whatever. Like if we decided overnight to just like I don't know, like nuke Pakistan or something, I'm sure that they would all just come on board immediately too. Like
They have no Air Force, no Navy. They have no radar. Their radar is entirely gone. Their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Everything is gone. Their leaders are gone. I guess
everything's gone.
Their top person was, they say, a lot of people say their actual top was killed yesterday.
And
along with
gay, right? Am I right, guys? Did anyone see that story where they talked about how the leader, Khomeini or whatever, the new Ayatollah, that someone said that they thought he was gay or something, or that he might be gay, and then Trump and all of these little goons, they all laughed like school children. That was a funny story.
somebody else who was responsible for the killing, the man that was responsible for the killing of 32,000 people over the last 2 weeks. He was in
Yeah.
charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday. And
Killing
all of the
everybody.
NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much, we have thousands
So
of
petty.
soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And
It's not that amazing. It's very obvious why they don't want to do it. It's because they don't want to get. It's the same reason we don't want to do it. We don't want to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz because we're like our military people. There's reporting that they told Trump we're not going to do it because Iran is going to fuck our shit up. And so I'm sure that all of the people in France and the UK and all of these NATO countries, they all got the exact same reporting from their military leadership saying no, they're going to bomb the shit out of us. Like we're going to lose like billion-dollar ships and stuff. So like and also like lots of lives. We're not going to do it. So it's the same exact reason. He's just trying to force like other countries into the like to sacrifice their resources and sacrifice their service members or whatever so that we don't have to. So yeah.
didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. We've that war has been long prosecuted as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, "Oh, you shouldn't do it." They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the
Within
B-2
1
bombers
month?
bomb the nuclear.
Oh my gosh, but I thought we obliterated it 12 months ago in the 12-day war. And then also you've been saying like our foreign policy has been saying they're a week away from a bomb for like 30 years now. So I mean, I guess this time though, this time for realsies, they were actually going to have a bomb in a month, I'm sure.
Potential. I call it the nuclear dust. I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a
Clearly
great
not.
test because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing
That's
is
true. That's true. We don't need them. Honestly, like Americans military might, if America cannot achieve something, then all of the NATO allies coming to help also cannot achieve that thing. America's military is like bigger than all of our NATO allies combined. Like it's like yeah, it's just there's nothing that we can't do that they can't do. What's really happening is we're reaching the limits of what America can accomplish militarily now. And it's no surprise to me as someone who has like looked throughout history and stuff and like analyzed how how empires overextend themselves all the time, like and what happens when you start overreaching and trying to force grip your way to like stay in power or stay hegemonic or whatever. None of this is surprising to me, but it was inevitable that at some point we were going to reach the limits of our military like capabilities. And considering how poorly we did against the Houthis, a couple years ago or whatever, how we had to just like tuck our tail and run from that, like I'm not very surprised that we are also not able to secure the Strait of Hormuz or whatever.
and I think very important. We didn't have to be there for Ukraine. Biden chose to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine.
Why are we still there then?
And I guess the head of Germany just made a statement that, well, they weren't involved and they have nothing to do with the war. But at the same time, they think we did a great thing by knocking them out. Nobody wants to have.
Yeah, they're just saying the same shit Democrats say. Like they're so happy that it happened, but oh, you didn't follow the rules or whatever. Like that's how the Democrats phrase it. The Europeans are just saying, oh, we're so glad you did it, but we don't want anything to do with it. Like I don't know. It's it all is hypocritical because all of those NATO countries did want this to happen, and like, but they are really under no. I mean, technically under NATO, I guess. Well, no. I don't know if NATO determines the difference between offensive or defensive wars. I was going to say NATO countries would be required to assist us under that agreement, but that it might only be in defensive wars if I remember. But I'd have to look up the charter.
Nobody wants to have Iran, or anybody, but nobody wants to have Iran with a nuclear, because these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're vicious,
psychos.
violent. I mean, they kill. Think of it. They killed, now I hear it's about 41,000 people. They put out a notice 2 days ago.
Did it just go up again? Did the number just go up right now? Did the ticker that they have, like a Dow ticker or whatever, of how many protesters the Iranians killed, did it just go from like 32,000 to 41,000 in the course of this like 5-minute conversation? He must have like an earpiece in his other ear that is feeding him the intel of how many protesters died.
Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
President Macron has just said in the last hour that he will never join a task force in the Strait of Hormuz until hostilities finish. Yet yesterday you said...
Who said that?
Never.
President Macron of France. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, he'll be out of office very soon, so we'll have to see. I don't know.
President Trump, on Doonbeg, you're building an extension to it at the moment, but there's been an objection put in, and it's being held back at the moment due to small snails. What are you disappointed about that?
No. Planning Commission is
I have not heard that. No.
Planning Commission.
I mean, the course was built and it's been operated very successfully.
I don't care about
Somebody's
golf, dude.
Objecting him in an environmental group is objecting to small snails at Doonbeg. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the biggest problem I've ever had.
How close the U.S. to announce a coalition of willing to secure the Strait of Hormuz? Which countries are joining?
Coalition of the
Well,
willing.
we've had great support from the Middle East. Qatar has been great. UAE has been absolutely, they've been great. Saudi Arabia has been terrific.
They've been great at like sinking all those, like taking all those missiles, man. They're like, I don't know, they're like a catcher's glove. Like they can just take a pounding and like and they're still allied with us. Like it's amazing. And we're so glad we allied with them. Bahrain
has been very good. The Middle Eastern countries have been very strong in their support. And of course, Israel has been our partner.
Our best
Israel's,
ally.
Been
the one
very,
ally.
very strong along with us. It's been a very strong collaboration. I was against Iran long before I even thought about Israel being against Iran. If you look back, many years ago, I talked about Iran was a big threat to this country, to this world of ours, and turned out to be I was right. In fact, I said you have to attack Karg Island. You have to attack them years ago when they were acting up. They've been acting up for 47, 47, I guess now 48 years. For 48 years, they've been bad players, vicious players, and you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. If they got a nuclear weapon, I would say they would have used it within 24 hours after having it. And they would have had it if we didn't bomb them out on that great raid with the B-2 bombers 8 months ago or so. You would have had a nuclear war in the Middle East and maybe beyond. I think it would have hit Europe. Maybe not Ireland, but it would have hit Europe. I think you would have been a
maybe
nice
not
piece
Ireland.
of it. It all gets you. It's big enough that you would have been affected. They would have hit Europe eventually.
See, I mean, I obviously fundamentally disagree. I do not think that they were like they had a fatwa on developing nuclear arms. I don't think they had any desire to attain nuclear arms. I think at this point it's somewhat inevitable that they will. And honestly, I can't wait for it to happen, because the only way we will ever have peace in the Middle East is if Iran gets a nuke, or if like other, anti-Israel countries in the region get a nuke. Because that's the only way to stop them and America from fucking with you all the time and destabilizing the region all the time. So, nuclear umbrella theory, like I just think it's been proven over time to be like completely correct. So,
Mr. President, your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you talk
Well, I
to
read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
Wasn't he like on the counter-terrorism like intelligence org or something? That's kind of a funny place to put him if you thought he was weak on.
I didn't know him
that.
well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were,
That's true.
If we didn't do the attack, or if I'll go
Propagandists, neocons, neoliberal, like think tank, the general like groupthink consensus of our foreign policy establishment definitely wanted to take out Iran for years. So he is correct on
a
that.
step further, if I didn't
And he is the only person who actually went through with it. Now, I don't necessarily know. I don't really know what those think tanks are thinking at this point. They tend to really underestimate, like they really tend to overestimate America's like capabilities and underestimate like other places. Like I think that because in general, all of those like policy papers and stuff, they are beneficial to like our global capitalists like pedo billionaires or whatever. And that's why they want to do these things. But I do think we're kind of seeing maybe a more negative impact from this than they were potentially expecting because of how much of a hit, like how much of a hit America's force projection is taking here with how weak we look and not being able to secure the strait and stuff. So, yeah, I wonder what they're thinking right about now, to be honest.
terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there loaded with cash? Hundreds of millions of dollars. You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful. They sent hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think
this sounds like some made-up quackery. I'm sure that the like sanction relief equated to hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever, but I don't really expect that Obama sent billions of dollars of cash in a plane to Iran. Like that seems kind of crazy to me.
there are two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago.
No.
You would have had nuclear.
No. Under the deal, every single person, every single scientist that went in there under the deal, because there was like, you had to have the International Energy Agency or whatever go in and monitor the sites and check on them and all that sort of stuff. The entire time they said that, yeah, they are not building towards a nuclear bomb. In fact, like Iran passed every inspection the entire time that the deal was there. And then he tore up the deal, which then led to, they said, okay, then we're going to develop past whatever percentage we were before up to like 60%. And so they started doing that. And I personally believe they were doing that just for leverage and discussions or whatever. But yeah, that's ridiculous. The deal was the one thing, like, was throwing away the deal is what has essentially led to this entire conflagration that's happening right now. I mean, it's part of it.
The Holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people.
Hey.
Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat.
This is why it's terrible messaging from all of these NATO countries, and it's terrible messaging from, similarly, from the Democratic Party to say, we hate the Iranians, and we hate their government, and yeah, they were going to create a bomb, and yeah, they were going to bomb Israel, and then, yeah, they were going to bomb us, but we really don't like that you did this, though. Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, that's such a dumb, stupid position to put yourself in that will like never work for the average person. No average person, that the average like American or whatever is just going to hear like, well, if you just care about the process or whatever, then who gives a shit? He did it, right? He did what you wanted. Shut the fuck up. Like that's what the average American's going to think. Like so that's why they shouldn't twist themselves into knots and just be, you know, they of course they would have to actually agree with me that like they weren't a threat and there was no reason to do this whatsoever if they wanted to, you know, get the electoral headwinds that could come for being against the war that way, but they're just unwilling to do that.
Every one of them, I think every one of them. I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat, you know. We're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing.
Well. Russia actually invaded. Like Russia did invade. Like so like there's a little bit of a difference there. Like if Iran like invaded, I don't know, Saudi Arabia or something, then you would have a lot more leeway to say, oh yeah, we should like yeah, we should fund their defense or something. Or Israel or whatever. If Iran invaded another country and started doing that, they weren't going to do that. They were not a threat fundamentally. They were not going to do anything. The only threat they have is not being sovereign and not being a vassal of the United States. That's the one threat that they see. And that's not a threat. That's just sovereignty. Every country should have that.
Thing for NATO.
Are there any repercussions for NATO, and are you still going to China?
Break it up.
Well, yeah, on China, it's a little different story. We're resetting the meeting, and it looks like it'll take place in about 5 weeks. We're working with China. They were fine with it. We're going to say, I look forward to seeing President Xi. He looks forward to seeing me, I think. But I do look forward to seeing him. We have a good relationship with China. China actually has become economically for us very good. Very good, as you know. It's much different than it was in the past. And we have a very good working relationship with China. So we're making it in about 5 or 6 weeks.
I wanted to hear him talk about NATO. Like I wanted to kick NATO to the curb.
Repercussions of NATO for not supporting you on this? Any repercussions?
Well, no, I just think that it's not good for a partnership when they say what you're doing is a great thing, but we're not going to help. You know, they say what you did is a great thing, but we're not going to help.
Yeah, this is where I don't trust like any of the few good things that Donald Trump ever comes up with. I never trust are actually going to make it to the finish line. Like getting out of NATO or something. Like that's something that I agree with. I want us to do. But because like it's an actual good thing that like would happen, like the foreign policy establishment is not going to let it happen. In the same way, like when he occasionally says something like, "Oh, I want to ban institutional investors in order to bring down the price of housing," and then that immediately like never happens because like basically the capitalist class comes up to him and says, "You're not going to fucking do that," and then he, puts his tail between his legs and walks away and says, "Oh, okay, I guess I won't do that." Like it's not going to happen, even if I wish it would. Like getting out of NATO, or like for instance, like getting rid of the filibuster is another example. I don't think it's going to happen. even though that's a good idea that he has.
In Iran, because the Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
Definitely.
No, I'm not afraid of. I'm really not
What?
afraid of anything.
Based answer. Okay, you earned my trust back with that one, Donald Trump. That was a funny answer.
Are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO possibly getting out?
Dude, that's
well,
the same
I'm
question.
disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years.
Okay, well, I wanted to hear some of what he had to say about NATO and Iran and stuff. I think we got maybe enough there. Um, I was I was hoping he would go a little bit harder on NATO, but it doesn't look like he is. He's being very wishy-washy about it. That face that he's making right there, that's about how I'm feeling about this press conference. But yeah, okay, let's go ahead and move on then.